I want to talk to y'all about an important concept that I learned while I was reading through Signature in the Cell by Stephen Meyer. And the reason why I find this so important is because of two other books, the Bible and also a book that was called Everything You've Been Taught Is Wrong by James Loewen. Now, the way that all of this came together was through a lot of intensive study in the Bible, and the way that it hit me, I feel you will also feel is important that I'm going to share with you. So, in the beginning of Stephen Meyer's signature in the Cell, he explains that whenever you're dealing with information, it's not in, for example, a piece of paper in a book. Now, you can go to that book, which is a monument. Each one of those little letters are like little tiny monuments, and they each are carrying with it a system of sounds that you've learned. Now, there's no information that's actually in a book or in the Bible or in any kind of book that you can think of. It's just a system of monuments, little tiny symbols, and you've also been handed a tradition that has taught you how to use those symbols together. Now, what happens is different authorities will get a hold of those monuments and those symbols, and they will attempt to use them in such a way that's going to benefit, for example, the state. Now, a couple of examples where the state was benefited would be Constantine in 325 AD when they had the Council of Nicaea and they began the Roman Catholic Church, and also the 1611 KJV translation, which was following in line with the Bishop's Bible, which is why they have those different manipulations in it. The way they use the word deacon, the way they use the word apostle, the way they use the word church, the way they put that word office in those different locations like we've talked about so much. Those are little monuments that they've played around with. They've taken the language, they've taken this system of letters, which is called grammar. That's what true grammar is the knowing how to manipulate symbols and use symbols. And whenever you use that in a form of dark art, they call that gramarye. So with one M, gramarye. Now, the way that I got a hold of that from Everything You've Been Taught Is Wrong by James Loewen is because what they do is they'll make monuments, right? Like a real monument. Like, hey, General Custer killed so many Indians at this location kind of thing. And, well, they actually make a lot of monuments that lie. They over-exaggerate, or they'll say something happened there just to generate tourism. So they'll fabricate the monuments to get a reaction that they want. And notice how that's linked to money, because you want tourism, you want to sell something, you want attention. And when the love of money is the root of all evil, it says in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 9 and 10, right in there, it says that word love of money, philargyria in the Greek, has the idea of the shine. And that part of the word arguria, that's where we get our word argue, arguria, argue. It means to silver or shining. So you'll take this monument that's going to shine and get people coming to it, and then they're going to listen to whatever you put in that monument, which will be the instruction, the doctrine. And because of some authoritative person who could erect a monument like that, you say, oh, wow, what an authority. And there's actually a study in psychology that shows that many people, most adults, never come to the place in their life where they understand to question authority. Where does this person get their authority? There's actually a name in psychology for that. I can't think of what it is right this second. 1 second. Hey, Caitlin. What's that thing in psychology called where they recognize authority you were telling me about?
Kohlberg, K-O-L,
Kohlberg?
K-O-H-L,
Kohlberg Stages of Moral Development. Gotcha. So part of it is in Kohlberg's Stages of Moral Development. So sorry about that little intermission. I just wanted to get that for y'all, and she was there, so we got it. Kohlberg's Stages of Moral Development. Most adults never come to the place where they can actually question, how does this person think they get authority? Where does this come from? And once you learn, it's putting someone in a cage, because they'll put you in a cage because they don't like what you do. Now, when they're in those positions, it doesn't matter whether or not you like what they do, because you can't put them in a cage. They can put you in a cage. You can't put them in a cage. So they erect the monuments. They have the access to put the different histories in our textbooks. That's called controlling publications. Publications controls the monuments, right? And if you go against the authorities, they're not going to publish it. And even if you do manage to publish it, unless you're going to be a really hard workhorse, chances are you're not going to sell it in order to make a profit. You might be able to publish a book on your own, and I would encourage you to do so and distribute it like pamphlet style. Just give it away. Because, I mean, money starts corrupting everything. It really does. And that's really the link into tying us all down as a nation, is to keep us believing in this pretend currency that they can print at will. And again, there's just these little monuments. That seems to be what life is kind of like even being a human being. We've been made as like a living monument. Like God breathed in us life, and when He formed us from the earth, and He made us, and we are like a living monument. We're animate, and when we die, think about it. Like there's like rigor mortis and all that, and you become like a stone. Or if they left you outside, you'd become the earth again. You would, and I mean even being buried and everything still deteriorate. I mean, you are a monument. You're a living monument. So tradition is what really gives life to this living monument that we are. If in a not life, but the information that they give us. So when they deprive us of information, our intelligent activity, which is where information actually is and given to us in a traditional sense, but the way we wrap up those symbols is how we become like a full living human being who's exerting like force and dynamic and alive and actually living and recognizing what's happening around them. But there's different distractions that keep us from being able to fulfill that real intellectual strength that we're capable of bringing in and exuding, and actually being able to wake up from our sleep, which it took God to do that to me. And maybe Satan can do an imitation of that, but whatever people who are under a satanic influence are doing, I wouldn't say that that's the same thing that I came from, because I love God and I've focused on God, and I've believed in Him, and I believe that He is the one who has been behind my spiritual and moral development. And I've come to the point as like a spiritual warrior, where I can recognize when other people are under satanic influence. The many are going into the wide gate, few are going into the narrow gate. And one of an important lesson that a sister that I've recently began talking to again, named Cindy, she actually explained to me that we overestimate it. We don't think about how few there really are. Like 8 in the days of Noah. Like, that's very few. Like, we want to think that, like, hey, this congregation only has 50 people. This is small. It's probably way smaller than 50, okay? So I mean, recognizing the actual walk that people are in is important, and understanding how to have an offense and how to have a defense, and in a healthy Christian way is just so important, so we can see through those lies that have been crafted in our minds by these people who are going around and they're blind, right? So they lead us off the ditch. It's like that word Cersei, who was a witch. So I just, what I'm talking about right now is developing in you an actual network, like a web, and within that web you have each one of these little points, and then it connects to the next points and the next points. So you actually, it's like having a network in your mind of like a way to like trap information as it's coming in to see whether or not it's legitimate or not. And if it's not, you trap it, you wrap it up, and you get it out of there, right? Kill it. It's like, because we're not trying to do the GIGO, the garbage in, garbage out thing. But like once the garbage starts to come in, just kind of be like, I mean, you can learn how to like listen to somebody when they're speaking garbage and then spit it out. Try to help them, try to get them on track. But usually what you're going to find is you can't change people. You'll drive yourself crazy trying to change people. But what people like for the most part is that darkness. They just want to sit there. They don't want to think. They don't want to think about the realities of what's going on in this world because it's too hard. It's too much work. It takes away from things we could be doing that's fun. And like I said, they're trapped by these false monuments. They have false information. It's garbage in, garbage out. And it's the deception of monuments. It's like a road sign pointing the wrong way. Someone knocked it off track, and then you're supposed to go left, and you end up going right. Then you drive off a cliff, right? Or you drive 400 miles in the wrong direction. That's what these monuments are meant to do. They're misdirecting us. They want us to be children. They don't want us to put away childish things and grow up, like it said with Paul when he's talking about love. They never make it to that part. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. Put on charity, which is the bond of perfection. Grow up, become perfect, the scripture calls it. Not perfect as in a sense, oh, I'm perfect, but like mature. Knowing how to navigate this world, knowing how to talk to people, knowing how to do the Great Commission, right? Those are important things. So I wanted to share this with y'all, and I hope you learned something from it. And like we said, there's no information in books. It's all in here. We can look at the symbols, but if they've twisted the symbols using that grammary, then they're leading us in the wrong direction. They're misleading us, like that word church, or using capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, everywhere Yahweh's name is mentioned 6,855 times. Except for those two little places where they did translate it. It might be three. There's either 2 or 3 places where they actually put Jehovah, which is just the same exact phonetically as Yahweh. They just put the J, and like Jerusalem is actually something like Jerusalem, and Jeremiah, that's my name, is actually Yeremiyahu. So they use a Y like a J, kind of like in Spanish they use that J with an H sound, like jalapeno. It's not jalapeno, right? Or Jesus is Jesus, right? And like Yeshua in the Hebrew there. So we can learn to differentiate through this information and comb through it. Like where we get that word cosmos, comb, where we get the word comb, like you're lining through your hair, or like a tapestry with a blanket where they put in a big picture in there, and the same, you comb through it, you look at it, you see where the imperfections are and the perfections are, you follow that which is good, look for the orders. There's orders in this world with the stars and the molecules and the atomic level and the biological sophisticatedness of DNA. I mean, it's orders. And it's learning about like where things are headed and where things are going, and how God has put it together, and it's an unfolding like a seed that's blooming. I believe they call that a I can't think of the word right now, but there's actually a different, like a carpenter builds, but a seed grows. There's actually a different part of speech for that. I can't remember. It's not an infinitive. Sorry, I can't think of it right now, but we're growing like a seed. A seed is like an unraveling because all of that information and DNA is in there, just like when we were a seed, when we were an egg, and it came together, and then now it's an unraveling because we didn't choose to be born. We didn't choose this life. We didn't choose any of this, but here we are, and right at the right moment, and God has us in the exact place He wants us, and we look outside and take in like whatever we're seeing, and all of that was already ordained. God is in control of that because He wanted you to see that, and He has you meeting people and doing these things because God is doing this unraveling, and it's like time is a seed or a plant, and we're growing, and you're either producing fruit or corrupt fruit, and there's actual God's creation as opposed to all of these institutions that man has created. And you have all of these little buildings and arms and tentacles that they have everywhere, but God teaches us by showing us birds and animals, like a dog. A dog will listen. A lot of times you can't get a human to listen, but you can get your dog to listen, right? Like you've ever talked to your dog or cat and you're like, man, I swear this thing can understand me. Well, it can. It's not fighting with you, you know? Sometimes they might fight with you, but you see what I'm saying. Or like you watch the birds, the way they have an exact order. Or like the way that an insect, they have an order. It's like this whole amazing nature ecosystem that God has made us, and He's made us a part of the cosmos and a part of nature. But this whole institutional world tries to take away our ability to dream and realize what's happening. And they want us focusing on applications and money and jobs and how am I going to get more money? And like the birds will wait for you outside if you feed them, or an animal will come to your house every day if you feed it. Because there's this amazing apparatus that God put us in called nature, called the universe, these orders, these amazing designs that will just blow your mind the more you contemplate on them. And then you have man-made institutions, school, and business, and government, and economy, and oh my gosh, someone save me, right? Help me out of this mess. And then you love nature when you go on a walk, or you drive to the top of a mountain, or like just driving around the mountain and feeling the momentum and the curves and seeing these amazing sights of God's creation. Like out in Oklahoma, you can see the arm of the Milky Way at night because it's so dark. And it's amazing. If you're ever out in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, look up at the sky. Or if you're in a country anywhere, look up at the sky. You can see the arm of the Milky Way, and there's just a million stars without all the light pollution from lights man has made and put there. More of man stuff, right? Institutions and lights and smoke and crashes in the middle of this crazy highway thing we like to do where everyone dies. Not everyone, but I mean, it's just dangerous. It's insane. It pollutes. It destroys the world. And God has all these amazing things built in, like whales, like dolphins and stuff, right? But we're focused on, how am I going to pay this light bill? And that's just, they want us like that. It's intentional. That's why we're there. This isn't this wage slavery and all this stuff. This isn't an accident. This is on purpose. God is telling you, like, listen to me. Like, focus on me. You know, look at the animals out there. Like, that a dog can understand you. But we as human beings can't understand one another, you know? Like, so, birds can understand you. You feed them, they come back. They'll be fussing at you in the morning because they want you to feed them. And they're watching and waiting like, why aren't you feeding? Why haven't you fed us yet? We're out here, like, hanging out. And they warn each other, and like they know when a bigger bird's coming around or an animal, they fly off, you know, and that's real life. Like stars is real life. Animals are real life. Like trees and nature is real life. But then we get on these highways and we go in these buildings and we just sit in our homes and we go to school and we listen to the government and we go to church and then we're like, what in the world is wrong with my life? That's what's wrong with your life. You wonder why people are like wigging out and killing people on CNN all the time? Or, you know, all those channels, NBC, Fox, whatever. And then it gets all in YouTube and Facebook and Instagram or whatever, right? All of those things. And it's going to be on Twitter. And people are going to do sad face emojis. But like, that is false reality. That's why people are flipping out, man. You know, you can't go fishing and sit on the bank and have a campfire. Like, you can't look at a fire without going into dream mode. You can't look at the waves of the ocean without going into dream mode. You can't be in Oklahoma and look at the stars without going into dream mode. They're taking away our imaginations. They're taking away our ability to dream. Okay? That's why they want to take the kids away. That's why they want y'all in institutions and these corporations, and we go to school so we can become good workers and be literate people who are typing at a computer all day, and you're stiff and your neck's like crinkling in and you're typing, and by the end of the day you're just like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to go to sleep, right? And you never just go outside and go and walk down the street and just get a fresh breath of air and like look at this beautiful sun. Don't look at the sun, that'll hurt your eyes. But and the sky and everything and the clouds. I mean, it's amazing out there, guys. Like, if you have a dog, take the dog for a walk. If you don't have a dog, get one. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, animals, they teach you a lot about life, you know. Like, you look at how a lot of people treat their animals, and you're like, why are we treating humans this bad? Like, why would I be mad at this person and I don't even treat my dog like that, right? I mean, it gives you something. Or like a cat, you're petting the cat, you love the cat, and then like you're mean to like a friend or something, right? You're like, why am I being mean to a friend? I'm not even mean to this bird. Like, go talk to this person, right? And God teaches us all that. Like that famous verse in Romans. And that famous verse in Psalm 19 where it says, even the heavens declare the glory of God. And the firmament showeth forth his handiwork. And then in Romans, it's somewhere between chapter 1 and chapter 2 where it talks about like God can be known by creation. I mean, there's energy and there's forces and like gravity and space and time and all of these amazing things. But like, it's all taken away when you take away your ability to dream. Like, God also used imagination, not just rational. Everyone's like, oh, well, I'm perfectly rational. And like, you have to learn to control your emotions. No, we're emotional. We're rational, we're dreamers, we can be creative, we can be extremely rational, and engineers and mathematical. We're all of these different things because God made us that way. Why don't we use all those things to serve Him? And I know why, because God has it this way, but you know, you want to see people like using that. So I hope that this helps, and thanks for taking the time to watch. I'll see y'all in the next video. Stay strong, brothers and sisters. I know it's hard out there, so love you guys. See y'all later.